Welcome to our BG Behind the Deal podcast. Today we have two very special guests here. We have
Ariel
and
Lucy.
Awesome. And what I would like to start is talk about the market today. You know, with all the tariffs and all the craziness going on, everyone is asking what's going on in the market. Is rate going up, going down, going sideways? Well, let's start with Ariel. Did I say your name right?
Yes, Ariel, like
Ariel.
the Little Mermaid.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So tell us what you've been seeing in the market. What's going on?
So I have been seeing, I'm primarily a listing agent. So I've just been seeing a lot of these houses just sitting for much longer than what we're used to.
What is considered like a long duration? Like 2 months, 3 months, 30 days? What are we talking about?
So I'm averaging out like 120 days or more.
That's a long time.
Yep. It's wild because, so recently in like 2021, things were just like flying off. And then now we're like,
offer situation.
Yeah, multiple offers, over ask, all that stuff. Yeah, exactly.
I see.
Yeah.
So educate our audience here a little bit, right? Like, are these new build? Are these like existing homes? Like, what are they?
Yes. So a lot of what I sell is resales, but they are newer builds. They were built in like 2020, 2021. But they are up against new construction.
Brand new build.
Within the same communities. So, once we kind of go down the list of what's being offered by the builders versus what we are offering as a resale, sometimes it's more appealing to go with the new builds because there's concessions and different incentives and all that. Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's go to Lucy for a second here. So what have you been seeing?
Well, so what I've seen on the market, it's just, like she says, this market's very slow. For me, the biggest struggle, I'm a buyer's and listing agent. So I do whatever. I go wherever my clients go. And for me, the hassle has been more of condominiums. I think a lot of people are more afraid to buy condominiums than even single dwelling home, family homes. And
why is that? Why are they afraid?
I think it's because so much rumors and so much commotion political about HOAs and stuff like that is going around on the news. It just makes people afraid to, get involved with something they don't know what to expect out of it, especially when it's luxury or, even to something that is not a luxury. They're still, I think, afraid of having to deal with HOAs, which, there's, it's out of our control. It's out of the seller's control. It's out of, a buyer's control. So we literally are at their mercy, So I can understand why they're afraid of purchasing condos. On the side of the single dwelling family homes, it's, like she says, it's still very slow. In my opinion, I think it's finally to start coming back again. I also think that my biggest struggle is a lot of the time is working with realtors. They don't know what they're doing. And so now you working extra to educate them and trying to make a transaction happen for your clients, make everybody happy. But that's kind of like the biggest struggle for me. They're just a lot of uneducated realtors out there. They just don't know what they're doing, how to navigate negotiations, or even ask, just how can we make this happen,
Or filling out the necessary.
That is interesting, right? Because as a consumer, as a buyer recently, a couple of years back, I bought a brand new build in Wesley Chapel. And we don't have a POA just yet. Like, we're still putting everything together, the CDD and the POA, they're still forming all these things. And I wish that there's like a slightly more restrictive and somewhat expensive HOA to kind of put people in check.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that they won't be like parallel parking their cars on the street. Like pulling out their plants from the front yard and making all concrete, stupid stuff like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I see the other side of it. It's like, hey, I don't mind paying a little bit so that it looks nice, the entire community. You know what I'm saying?
So I think that's a good point. Like, I also prefer that too. Have someone who can maintain and obligate people to keep their properties at some level of condition. It makes the whole thing looks great, which is what you pay for HOA. I think is the point of how rules and regulations and how those documentations, when it comes about selling it, it's what makes it very very tricky. For a new buyer to.
That's true.
you know, like the questions about, you know, what if you default of the loan, you know, and then now the lender does not want to keep your loan because now you mark a yes instead of a no, you know, those little things, or the financings of an HOA, you know, where it's not accurate or have an assessment because they just feel like it, you know, and they're not, I feel also that they're
in terms of buildings, you mean?
Correct, and they're not explaining the residents, they're not educating more people as far as to what is the HOA there for, you know, explain them, this is what we're supposed to do to look out for you, this is what we need to do to make
it's
things
for your
better.
benefit.
It's for your benefit.
It's not just money. They're doing something with it. Hopefully they're doing something with it.
Exactly. And so that's the struggle that has been, that there's not a lot of good HOAs out there, and you know, and when they don't take the time to educate the residents or new buyers or even agents so that we can explain this to the consumer, it comes very challenging to having to explain them why there's an assessment. What is this for? You know, you're gonna have to pay for this. So it's just very unappealing to new buyers.
It's true. They only see that as dollar sign. They don't see the benefit, because if they've never done it, if they're especially first time home buyer, they're like, oh, I'm paying extra, I don't like it. Well, you're paying extra for a reason.
Yeah.
They're just not sucking up your money.
Yeah, it's not just to make the property looks pretty or to give you the rules. And a lot of people, the comments that I get is that why do I buy a house if I feel like I don't even own it? They own it. They're telling me how do I supposed to maintain my home? I'm not allowed to drill. I'm not allowed to do this. I'm not, you know. So now you get
it's true.
You know, it's like, do I even own this house?
So I go to these like CDD meeting, right? And it's funny. Like some people they sound very unhinged. I'm allowed to use that word, right? They sound very unhinged. They're like, what? I cannot do all these things within my house, like with that like voice tonality.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, these people are volunteers. You know, like the board members.
Yeah.
They are your neighbors. They're volunteers trying to help you out. Why are you yelling at them?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
These people have no idea
It's
how
just
the whole
a
thing
lack of
works.
education, I think, you know, where they need to understand what's the purpose of things. You know, it's not that and then at that point, if they don't like it, then sell or, you know, move on to something else where you don't have to deal with it. But the reality is that these people already supposedly have known these rules and regulation in these documentations before they actually bought.
Right.
So why they're upset now if you knew what you were buying? So that falls back again into agents where they're not doing their job and explaining them, you know.
Do you guys deal with buyers from out of state, like from other states?
Yes.
Sometimes.
So I'm from New York, right? So this whole concept of CDD is like new to me. Like
It's so foreign.
it's so foreign. It's like, what the heck is that? You know, like what is a bond?
Yeah,
Like,
what do
you mean I have to pay for the highway?
Yeah.
And tell them that you're HOA, right?
Exactly.
Like, what is this?
So it does take a lot of education. Like in my case, just my wife's saying that, don't worry about it. So I was like, okay, I'm educated.
Yeah. Because I mean, it's literally a tax on the land, and the people that live there, you are paying for it.
Yes.
So it's like, it's so confusing because in a lot of other states, it is not applicable. An HOA is what they have, and that's it.
Exactly.
Moving to Florida, you get the community development district.
Yep.
People are like, what's CDD?
Right.
What is that?
Right.
And like, even us as agents, when we're selling homes in a CDD community, sometimes the clarification, there is like room for error.
Right.
Because those things do change sometimes.
Right. Yeah,
So.
And it's a very long-term thing, right? We're talking about like 10 years, 15 years.
No,
Yeah, exactly.
CDD doesn't go away. CDD is forever, pretty much.
It's evolving.
It's evolving.
It's always evolving.
It's evolving.
I live in a CDD community, and it is forever evolving.
Yeah. So to me, I see the benefit side of it, because if you unfortunately, if you just let people do whatever they want, like your next door neighbor may have a house that's like lime green in color, and it's going to ruin the entire neighborhood. You know what I'm saying?
I'm having like cars working on the front yard, like a mechanic.
Oh yeah, and spilling motor oil over the place.
Yeah, I agree. You know, having like a jar, kind of like look like a what do you call it? Like a jungle, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Again, that falls back into there's a lot of things I do agree there should be mandatory. You know, like simple.
There should be some standard.
It should be some
minimum standard.
Exactly, but there are some HOAs that are just extremely. And so now, as a realtor, we have to explain this to buyers, and they're like, "What am I even buying? Am I even buying anything? I might as well just keep renting, right?"
Right. See,
sorry, go ahead.
So I face the same problem, right? Like sometimes, I also do direct to consumers, just like you guys, right? They come to me first,
right?
And they could be renters, and I find myself trying to convince them that, hey, you're paying like $2,000 a month, $2,500 a month in rent. you can actually qualify for a mortgage, and they're like, oh, I don't want to pay CDD and this and that,
of
and
course.
oh, it's just too much. It's
Oh,
like
the
information
responsibility.
overwhelmed, like especially with the younger generation. They want things to have low friction.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Like instead of driving to McDonald's, it's like Uber Eats.
It's true.
Yeah, 'cause my
The
kids
path
do
of
that.
least resistance.
Yeah, because my kids do that. It's like they would order from Chipotle or something, and the meal could be $20. I was like, how much should they charge you for delivery? $20. That makes no sense.
Yeah. It's true. But they're just convenience happens.
Yeah, but I just press a button and the food shows up. So there you go.
Yeah, it's true.
It's a tough, I'm telling you, it's a tough market. And I think that a lot of unknowledge people, and I'm not saying I'm the smartest person by all means, there's always something evolving within real estate. But again, we also have, a good brokerage that we can call at any time and ask for questions. We can do our own research. It's just a lack of people that cannot think outside of the box. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but it makes transactions really painful.
It's true. It's funny you said that, right? So I was talking to my colleague Joe. We're at a presentation in front of like 40 realtors, and a lot of loan officers may try to convince you that rate is coming down, don't worry about it, like it's going to be okay. I was like, maybe we should say the opposite. Rate is going to go up. It's going to be high for a long time.
Yeah.
And if you don't buy now, you may not be able to get on the train.
Exactly.
So I think
they're gonna miss the train.
Exactly, you might miss the train. So true story, right? I didn't make this up. So I'm from New York. I'm still doing loans in New York. I have a client. He owns a barbershop, and he obviously self-employed. He takes a lot of deductions, and therefore on paper doesn't have a lot of income. So I was like, all right, show me your bank statements. And he seems to be, I guess a lot of people need to cut their hair, so it makes good money on paper. And I was like, okay, let's qualify you for a loan, right? So he was able to buy a house for $700,000 in Staten Island, and it's pretty beat up, like for Staten Island, New York standard, right? He was like, "Oh, the rate is too high. It's like 7.5. I'm not going to buy right now. I'm going to wait. I'll call you back in a year."
And a year.
So fast forward from 2023 to 2024. I was like, Kevin, I need to be get pre-approval again. I was like, what happened? The same house is $800K. I was like, what? It went up $100K? He was like, what's the interest rate? 7.25. He was like, oh man, it's still high. I'll call you back in a year. And I kid you not, he just called me back last month. He was like, Kevin, I can't wait anymore. The same house is now $900K. I was like, well, I don't know if you can actually qualify for it.
Yeah.
Because your income hasn't gone up that much.
Exactly. The price is going up, but our income it doesn't. So you missing your train. It's literally what it is.
Absolutely. Like granted, we have corrections here and there, but in general, real estate market is what we get like 4% increase a year nationally speaking, and we are still short 1 million homes nationwide. We have a shortage. So how does that fall into, since you're more familiar with new builds, I know you used to work for a builder before, so how does that, what do you think that's going to happen with the market and, the way it is and the new builds? Do you think that's going to stop at some point, to where, the builders are going to stop building more? So I don't know.
I don't think they're going to stop building.
Yeah.
I think that especially the builders like D.R. Horton or the big box builders, right? I think that they're going to continue to purchase land and continue to develop and continue to do what they're doing. And then with that being said, that's putting us up against so much competition. I mean, even like on the mortgage end of things, like they have their own in-house lenders that are able to offer astronomical, what did you say?
4.5%.
Yeah, 4.5% for some, that's unheard of right now in the market. So, and it's just wild to see.
Maybe you can give me some insight into this, since you used to work for a builder, right? But from my perspective, I think, on the other hand, they also borrow money to build, to buy land and build, and they probably pay like a even higher rate. So from their perspective, it's like, oh, let me get the money back so I can pay off my loan.
Exactly.
So they don't care if they have to pay extra 10 grand, 15 grand to lower the rate for the buyer.
Exactly.
Because it's costing them so much money on the back end.
Exactly. So they'd rather get rid of it than hold on to it. It makes more sense. So when they have inventory, when they have homes that are already upright and everything like that, that's why you see these prices dropping periodically. And it's like drastic changes. And then you just see people
A lot
flocking
more
to these.
incentives too.
Yeah,
True,
and
it's true.
wild.
It just amazes me that they're able to increase the price of the home sometimes. Like they're even more expensive.
Yep,
And then they say, okay, let me give you 30 grand in incentives.
exactly.
And they give you a 4.5% rate. And from a first time home buyer perspective, especially if they're not super educated, they're like, oh wow, it's like Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I'm buying now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it messes with like the appraisal standpoint of
Yes.
things too in those communities when they sell like that.
Yeah.
They are selling at 550, but it was really 500.
Right.
And for an appraisal standpoint, when you're looking at a resale home, it's not comparable, even
Yeah.
though, right? Because of all the concessions that were offered.
Right.
And so it's like almost lopsided.
That's
so like
true. That's
if
true,
you
yeah.
try to sell a resale home for 525 and it's not going to qualify because of all the concessions that they're throwing on the news, it's awful.
Yeah,
it's so bad.
it just skewed the entire market.
Yeah, completely.
It's just very difficult for us to explain these things like logically to
I
people.
know. And it's so
It's just too
hard.
much information.
It is. It is. They're like, no, just sell my house.
Right.
And it's like, it's not that easy. We have to sell it at this price point.
So
not that price
now
point.
that brings me the subject of the situation that we were been dealing a lot with. It's with sellers. How sellers are being very realistic right now when it comes to, okay, we want to put the house in the market for whatever motivations they have to sell, right? Maybe I'm moving out of town, or maybe, I just want to downsize, or, usually it's those are the main reasons, right? Then we as a realtor, we put the property on the market. We give them advices to, hey, this is what based on the facts that comes out there. This is what we advise you to do. And sometimes, depending on the situation, we sometimes take listings on a higher end that we don't want to, because we want to help them and hoping that somebody will come and understand the property the way we might want to understand it, the buyers too. What the sellers don't understand these days is that it doesn't matter what we think. It's what an appraiser will think. It's what the facts are there.
That's true. That's true.
And that's the biggest struggle, I think, as a leasing agents that we're having, is that how can you make them understand that the house, even though you put improvements in it, your house is not worth that. And then so that's, once you pass that information, once you pass that hurdle, you're like, okay, well, understand, we agree into a price and moving on, put the house in the market. But then now we get offers like you just did this, and then you got lower end offers, and then offers, and then they get so offensive about it, and they won't take offers. And I'm like, I don't think you understand. They're not
You're not going to get anything better than that.
Yeah.
So I've seen that, and I was previously in like a fix and flip business, so I was like a seller directly.
Okay.
And I think at the end of the day, you have to let the market speak to them, right?
Exactly.
Like it's always. It's like being a parent.
Yeah.
So you understand, right? Like you tell the kids what to do. You tell your kid to turn right, they'll turn left, right? But if everyone else is telling them to like turn right, they'll turn right, right? You have to let the outside world speak to them.
Yeah.
I think that's what we need to do.
And that's what like there was a situation with my list, one of my listings, that I had to cancel it because I was like, listen, we haven't got any showings. There's no traffic. Like I already know this property is not going to sell.
You have to value your time.
Exactly. We're not going to get the traffic, and you're not allowing me to expose more of the property.
Right.
How would you expect to somebody come and buy and see what you see, what I see? Is your house worth? Absolutely. Is an appraiser going to think so? Absolutely not. Are the facts out there? Absolutely not. So now you have to come to like a Jesus conversation. That's our broker says, you have a Jesus talk with your sellers, right?
Yeah, the come to Jesus moment.
Yeah, and they just don't get it. And then so if we get lucky enough to get offers, right? And sometimes it's just one or two, sometimes barely you make it through one, they're still very unrealistic. And so guess what's happening? A lot of times they don't understand. It doesn't matter what you tell them, like when you tell them a kid, right? Every single time it's going to be the agent's fault. So she's not doing her job. I'm not doing my job. Why you give me this offer? Why you didn't fight for me? Why these numbers don't make sense? I cannot lose money. Well, it's unfortunate, but we are in a buyer's market. There's way too many options. There's not enough, there are listings, but there's not enough buyers. And so we have way too many options. What makes you think that they're gonna come and wait and they could even love the house, but they're still gonna go and find something else that is cheaper. They maybe settle for it, and they're missing opportunities, making us literally spin our wheels and work for extra and for what? For not to sell, to let the lease expire, have to cancel because now it gets to a point where they're so disrespectful to you.
Right.
They don't see, it's like they're going with horses. They're like, they don't understand our job. And it doesn't matter what you do to explain them and to show them, listen, we busting our behinds to get this to work.
Right.
And they just don't see it because they don't get what they want. Like kids, if they don't get their way, they don't see it. They just literally
they behave whatever the way they want.
So the people that you literally had at the beginning, they were super nice, people, and they turn into like a flipping a switch, like this monsters that you're like, what?
It's your fault.
It's my fault. And it's always, it doesn't matter. Like you just have one where they give you the wrong payoff amount, and then she was wrong. And she has a text to show, hey, you gave me this amount. I'm not a lender. I'm not the title. I just give you a net sheet and base of what you gave me.
Yeah.
That's your responsibility, And they got mad at her, and they still mad at her because she messed it up.
I have a lot of respect for what these people do. That's the reason why I'm not a realtor.
Like, I don't want your job.
So I'm on the mortgage side. At least I'm one layer removed. They take the blunt off the hit.
Yeah,
we're like punching bags.
Exactly. They take the hit first.
Yeah,
we do.
You get title company that don't know absolutely nothing what they're doing.
Oh yeah.
And then they want to point finger at you guys.
Yeah.
Or us, and I'm like, did you realize that you guys are just the brokerage and you are not the actually bank, like the lender?
Right.
And then it's either if it's not the agent, it's a seller. If it's not the seller, then it's a title. There's always something. Usually seems like at least I have the lender on my side.
Right.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, everyone is looking for someone else to blame.
Yes, it's true. There's no accountability.
It's human nature.
Yeah. And it's so very frustrating.
No accountability. Yeah, that's right.
Non-accountability. And it's like, I'm lucky to have some good sellers, but we've got, this last couple of months has been
beat up.
rough. I'm surprised I don't have bruises. I feel like
maybe emotionally,
Emotionally, I'm damaged.
traumatized.
I'm the one I'm going to bust my behind 100, 200%.
So it's funny. So I drive my kids to school, and sometimes I may be on a loan consultation, or I may be dealing with a file with a client, right? So my son actually, he's 17, so he listens in on the conversation. Most of the times, shaking his head. It's like, I don't want to do what you do.
You, Dad.
Smart man.
Yep.
Don't get me wrong. I still love what I do, and I think we can agree that we love our job. We love helping people. We love being able to be part of an accomplishment that it's a big deal, right? Probably the biggest thing that anybody will do in their life. But at the same time, it's like there's some times that it's like I really doubt myself. What am I thinking? What was I thinking? And then so we have to come to a Jesus moment between ourselves to like, it's okay. It's okay.
It's gonna be fine.
It's gonna be fine.
So I would like to end this on a happy note, right? So tell me something that recently that you think is great that you have achieved in the field, and something you can share with us, like on the happier side of things.
On the happy side.
Yeah. She's like just cracking up. It's like, what are you talking about?
Like recently, none.
Oh, well, I saw you. I saw your Instagram post. You were like paddleboarding.
Oh, okay. On my personal life.
The personal life is okay.
So yes, I finally went paddleboarding. I haven't been paddleboarding in like ages, and that was the best moment.
Yeah, it was a great picture.
I didn't have my phone.
So you had your phone with you while you're paddleboarding? How did you take the picture?
I did one. My girlfriend took another picture and videos, but yeah, I was like not using my phone. I don't want nothing to do with my phone. I need to mentally escape from
detached.
Yeah, and so I push myself because I take my job so seriously that I sometimes feel like I don't even have a life. Like it's like all I do, eat, drink, and breathe. It's real estate.
Wow.
How can I think outside of the box to make my job better for my clients and I? And at the same time, we've all been new agents, so I have no problem teaching new agents, navigate through it and helping because we've been there. But it gets to a point where it's like, okay, I'd rather bang my head on the wall than literally trying to make things happen sometimes. But so that was just my happy. I went to my happy place, or either that, or I go to a lightning game and just to relieve some stress and just start back on again.
That's good. That's good. That's wonderful. How about you?
I recently went under contract on one of my listings.
Awesome.
On a cash deal.
Awesome.
And it's been listed since November, and we had 0 offers up until this point. And so my seller, who already purchased a new home, he's finally able to let go of this one. So
wow,
it's all
that
very
is great.
positive and great.
But that was a low offer too, wasn't it?
It was lower, but it's still pretty solid.
Yeah.
So
that's great.
beggars can't be choosers.
Exactly.
know,
That's granted.
yeah.
When someone's offering cash,
Absolutely,
I'm
cash
going
is
to give you
king.
top dollars.
I was terrified
cash
for her
is
when
king.
she told me about it. I'm like, please, let's just take the offer for herself. Like, please, be common sense.
Yeah.
Like, just take it. Like,
My seller is amazing. He's very
Oh.
understanding. I literally have worked with him on, now this is our 3rd transaction
That's
together.
awesome.
So like I sold his condo. He had a beautiful condo in Harbor Island 2 years ago that we sold. And we purchased this new home with the idea that that was where he was going to be retiring. And it was like the perfect 55 plus neighborhood for him. And then long story short, he met a beautiful woman.
Aw.
And they are, dating, and now they're going to move in together. And so
Second
it's like a
chance in
big
life.
thing. Exactly. When he was just planning on retiring and being settled in this beautiful little villa, now we had to sell it. But now we're under contract, and
that's awesome.
You never know. 55 is not too late.
it's not too late. Seriously.
We're not that far from that number anyway.
I can almost move into a 55 plus community.
I cannot.
I'm almost there.
I'm not there.
Not yet.
I'm only a few years away.
Not yet.
I'm like 20 years short.
Still young. So on that note, I think that's a wrap. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.